The name of the story is The Little Girls. We were sleeping when Federico burst into the room. His face was twisted in anguish, his hands striking his chest as if trying to silence something unbearable inside him. He stumbled forward, knocking over a chair, sending papers and clothes to the floor. The noise tore us from our dreams, but no one of us dared to move. We just stayed there, half awake, watching in stunned silence as his fury filled the room. The cause of his despair soon became clear. His fiancée had left him. They were to be married within days, yet the young woman had run away, leaving him alone with his rage and the echo of a love that vanished overnight. Federico was about to smash his fist against the mirror when his mother entered the room. Her presence didn't calm him. It shattered the air even more. It was as if the dark energy both of them carried had finally met, feeding on itself until it filled every corner. The air grew thick. I could sense that something terrible was taking shape. Federico's mother moved like a storm, her eyes blazing, her steps sharp and fast. At first I thought she was worried about the missing girl, but soon I understood she was furious, humiliated by the disgrace the runaway bride had brought upon her son. She approached the boy and said softly, "Don't worry, my child, I'll manage to get it right." Inside the room stood a large wardrobe that covered an entire wall. Federico's mother opened one of its doors, revealing what was hiding inside. I lifted my head to see better. On a shelf, a row of holy figurines gleamed under an orange light that gave the scene a strangely eerie glow. My eyes lingered on one of the statues to the right. It wore a long red cloak trimmed with gold, and on its head were two small lamps that made me think of horns. Federico's mother took the nearest statue and placed it at the center of what looked like an altar. She began to pray in a language I couldn't recognize. When she finished, the woman left the room the same way she had entered, only to return a few seconds later, standing once again in her place. This time she disposed of the used figure, placing it in a basket on the edge of the shelf, and chose another. The new one was a goddess. At first I thought she was a virgin, but the color of her rose didn't remind me of any I knew. She set the figurine at the center of the altar, just as she had done before, but this time she also lit a candle beside it. Then she began a long prayer in a language I couldn't understand either. When she finished, she placed both hands on her chest and bowed her head. It was Federico's turn to leave the room. He stayed on the other side for a few minutes, and after a sharp cry he came back, more distraught than before. The religious woman then asked us to leave. Federico turned to us and ordered, "Out!" But she wanted everyone gone, and this time she screamed with fury, "All of you out!" A voice within me warned me about the woman's intentions. She needed the room emptied to summon spirits that could possess her and bring her purpose to life. Clearly, we couldn't stay, not only because we weren't meant to witness such a scene, but because two things might happen. The summoned spirits could latch onto us, or more than one might answer the call. Those entities loved innocent little children. As for me, I knew I could never be a vessel for them. I was coarse and rotten inside, but the other children weren't like me. They were different. We climbed down from the banks where we had been watching since the beginning of the scene. We were preparing to leave when I thought that if something went wrong, I had to run. But I was barefoot. I tried to grab a pair of shoes before escaping, yet it was impossible. The jumble of shoes was tied together by their laces. Pulling only dragged the rest. In that moment the mad mistress shouted, "Out!" and I ran to catch up with the others. We rushed toward the door on the left side of the room, and the young man ran behind us. The girls and I ended up in the kitchen. I sat at the wooden table while the children settled comfortably on the couch in the living room area. The TV was on, and the girls fixed their eyes on the screen. The ghastly boy, however, kept walking down the hall, straight to another room in the house. After a while I felt my feet growing cold, so I took a pair of socks from a pile of clothes on the table. I was trying to put them on when Federico appeared at the end of the hall, looking toward the kitchen. He stared at me for a moment and began to walk slowly in my direction, never taking his eyes off me. When she was halfway there, his mother appeared, following him in the same uncanny way. The sight was so disturbing that I thought they were both coming for me, but they weren't. The woman grabbed Federico's arms and stopped him. "Here you go," she said, placing something in his hand. "They said you need to take this." In his palm were 6 small pills, pink and white squares. He brought his hand to his mouth and swallowed 3. Then he kept walking until he reached me. "Do you want some, sweetie?" he asked, revealing the 3 remaining pills in his hand. "No, I have candies," I said. He leaned forward, his face an inch from mine, and whispered, "You know, if I don't take these, I see creepy things." And I heard strange voices. When he pulled back, I looked at him with narrowed eyes, letting him see that I felt sorry for him. That's when I realized the young man suffered from a mental illness. He saw and heard things that weren't real. Yet something about the moment made me think of the missing girl. I imagined she had discovered his illness and decided to run away. When he turned around to pour himself some water from the jug, I slipped away under the table and crawled quietly toward the 2 girls. I moved in front of the couch, careful not to be seen by Federico. Somehow, I managed to reach the room with bunks. There, the mad young man's mother was kneeling before the altar, her eyes closed. I glanced at the bunks and thought about climbing up to continue my nap, since I was still cold and sleepy. Then I saw the other room's door was open, so I decided to keep going in that direction. I looked back at Federico's mother to see if she had moved at all, but she remained in the same position. That's when I realized the little girls were following me. So I kept walking toward what I had always thought was the exit, although it wasn't. As soon as my nose touched the air on the other side, a shiver ran through my body, and my hair stood on end. Still, I fully crossed the doorway. My curiosity was stronger than my fear. On the other side was a smaller room than any I had seen before. In one corner stood a bed, and on it lay a beautiful young woman who seemed to be sleeping. I jumped onto the bed. The other girls jumped on too, but they stayed near the foot, watching what would happen next. I leaned toward the girl's face, who remained still. I pressed my nose against hers and noticed she wasn't breathing. I reached out to touch her face, but when I saw my claws, I hesitated, afraid of hurting her, even though she was already dead. In that moment, confusion struck me over what I had just seen. Claws, I thought. I turned toward the girls, and only then I did realize what they were. Two kittens, and I was one of them. The end. Hope you have enjoyed the story. See you next time.